The evening was quiet in Keanu Reeves's home. The large windows overlooked the city where the lights glimmered like stars fallen onto the streets. Inside, the smell of roasted herbs and fresh bread filled the air. It was a smell that always reminded Keanu of comfort, of home. The man responsible for it was Antonio, his chef for over 15 years. Antonio was more than an employee. He was a loyal friend, a man who had stood by Keanu through years of highs and lows. He knew exactly how to prepare the meals that reminded Keanu of his childhood, meals that carried warmth even on the loneliest nights. That night, Antonio prepared dinner for a small gathering. A few close friends and associates were visiting, and the dining table had been set with care. Candles flickered gently, the silverware polished until it shone, and every plate carried the mark of Antonio's dedication. Keanu entered the dining room with a soft smile, watching as Antonio adjusted the final touches. "As always, Antonio, you've outdone yourself." Antonio gave a humble nod. "It is my honor, sir. Cooking for you is never a job. It is joy." But what no one knew was that the warmth of the evening was about to be shattered. The guests arrived, laughter filling the room as they admired the food. Glasses clinked, conversations began, and plates were passed around. Everything seemed perfect until one guest suddenly coughed violently, clutching his throat. The room froze. Another guest frowned, tasting their dish cautiously, then spat it out, his voice sharp. "What is this? Something's wrong with the food." Panic spread quickly. Whispers filled the room, suspicion rising like smoke. All eyes turned to Antonio. "He cooked it," one guest muttered. "Who else could be responsible?" Antonio's face paled, his hands trembling. "Please, no. I prepared everything, with care. I tasted each dish before serving. There is nothing harmful here," but the accusations grew louder. He must have slipped something in. 15 years or not, people change. "This is no accident." Keanu stood slowly, his calm voice cutting through the noise. "Enough." The room silenced. His eyes moved to Antonio, not with doubt, but with trust. "I know this man. He has served me faithfully for years. He would never harm anyone." Antonio's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, sir. I swear on my life I did nothing." But the pressure did not ease. One guest stood angrily, pointing at him. "Of course, you would defend him, but the truth is clear. He is guilty. No one else touched the food." Keanu looked at the half-eaten plates, his mind sharp. Something did not add up. Antonio's reputation was spotless. His meals had always been perfect. If there was poison or anything harmful, it could not have come from him. "Before we make judgments," Keanu said firmly, "let us find the truth." He motioned for the remaining food to be set aside. Quietly, he observed the guests. One man in particular avoided his gaze, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. His hands were restless, his eyes darting to the door. Keanu's instincts stirred. He had lived long enough to know when guilt was hiding in plain sight. As the guests continued whispering, Antonio stood silently, his shoulders heavy with shame. But Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Trust me. I believe you, and I will prove it." The storm had begun. Keanu Reeves was about to uncover the truth, that the loyal chef who stood accused was not the traitor, but the victim of an inside job waiting to be revealed. The dining room was heavy with tension. The laughter from earlier had vanished, replaced by suspicion and fear. Antonio stood quietly in the corner, his head lowered, his heart breaking. After decades of loyalty, he was now treated like a criminal in front of strangers. Keanu watched him carefully. He knew Antonio's silence wasn't guilt. It was the silence of a man too loyal to defend himself against people who would never believe him. Keanu rose from his seat, his calm voice steady. "Everyone, sit down. We will not condemn an innocent man without proof." A few guests grumbled but obeyed, though suspicion still lingered in their eyes. Keanu motioned for Antonio to sit as well, but the chef refused. "Sir, I cannot sit, while people believe I have harmed them." Please let me clear my name. Keanu gave him a firm nod. We will. He looked at the plates on the table. The food was fine when I tasted it, but something changed once it reached certain guests, which means whatever happened did not start in the kitchen. The room stirred. One woman frowned. What are you saying? Someone tampered with the dishes after they were served? Keanu's eyes scanned the table. Yes. Someone here wanted Antonio to take the blame. Antonio's breath caught. But why? Who would do such a thing? Keanu thought, back to the guest he had noticed earlier, the man shifting uneasily, his eyes avoiding everyone else. His name was David, a business associate introduced to Keanu only recently. David forced a laugh. Are we really suggesting one of us would poison food in Keanu Reeves's house? Come on, that's absurd. But his voice was too quick, too defensive. Keanu didn't answer him directly. Instead, he addressed the room. If Antonio was guilty, why would he serve the food to everyone, including me? He had nothing to hide. But the person who tampered with it wanted two things: to hurt my guests and to ruin Antonio's name. Whispers filled the air. Doubt began shifting away from Antonio. David wiped his brow nervously, muttering, "This is ridiculous." Keanu stepped closer, his voice lower, sharper. Then why are you sweating, David? The man froze, his chair scraping as he shifted backward. Eyes turned toward him now, suspicion clear. Antonio looked at Keanu, his lips trembling. Sir, you really believe me? Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. Antonio, I have always believed you. Loyalty like yours cannot be faked. I know your heart, and I will not let anyone destroy your name. The chef's eyes filled with tears, gratitude overwhelming him. But the night was not over. Keanu knew David wouldn't confess easily, and whoever had planned this was more dangerous than they appeared. As the guests murmured and argued, Keanu's instincts sharpened. He had seen betrayal before, in business, in friendships, in trust, and he knew one thing: the truth always left a trail, and he was determined to follow it even if it meant exposing secrets that others had hidden for years. The guests sat stiffly around the table, unease crawling through the room. Antonio stood close to Keanu, his hands folded tightly, his heart pounding. Though Keanu's words gave him hope, he still feared the weight of suspicion that pressed against him. David shifted in his chair, pretending to appear calm. But Keanu noticed everything: the twitch of his jaw, the restless tapping of his fingers, the way he avoided meeting anyone's eyes. Keanu's voice broke the silence. The truth leaves signs. Antonio prepared the dishes carefully, but the plates were left unattended for a few minutes when the servers stepped out. Anyone could have tampered with them then. One guest frowned. But why would anyone do that here in your home? Keanu's gaze was steady. Because someone wanted to create doubt. They wanted to make Antonio look guilty, to make me lose trust in him. But they didn't expect me to pay attention. All eyes slowly turned to David. His face flushed, and he forced a laugh. You can't be serious, you're accusing me, I'm a guest. Keanu walked around the table slowly, his presence calm but heavy with authority. Yes, a guest, but not a friend. You were introduced to me only recently. You pushed for this dinner. And now, this incident happens. Too convenient, isn't it? David stood suddenly, his voice sharp. This is outrageous, I won't sit here and be insulted. Keanu didn't flinch. Then explain why you were the only one who insisted on serving yourself from the platter before anyone else. Explain why the same dish you handled first was the one others found strange. The room grew tense. Antonio's eyes widened as realization sank in. One woman gasped. You mean David poisoned it himself? David's face twisted. You have no proof. Keanu leaned closer, his voice low but cutting. I don't need proof tonight, but there will be proof. And when I find it, your lies won't protect you. David's hands shook, his mask slipping. You don't know what you're dealing with, Reeves. You think this is just about food? You think your chef is all that's at stake? The words sent a chill through the room. Antonio whispered, trembling. Sir, what does he mean? Keanu's eyes narrowed. I think we're about to find out. David straightened his coat, his tone sharp with menace. You've made powerful enemies, Keanu. Antonio was just the first step. Discrediting him was meant to shake your foundation. But you interfered. You always interfere. Gasps rippled through the guests. Keanu's jaw tightened. So, this was never about Antonio's cooking. It was about me. David smirked faintly, though fear flickered behind his eyes. You'll regret this. Before anyone could stop him, David stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. The room fell into stunned silence. Antonio's shoulders slumped, his voice breaking. Sir, I never wanted to bring danger to your home. Keanu placed a firm hand on his shoulder. You didn't. You're the victim, Antonio. Someone tried to use you to hurt me. But they underestimated one thing, my trust in you. Tears welled in Antonio's eyes. For years he had served quietly, never asking for recognition. And now Keanu had defended him in front of everyone. But Keanu knew this was only the beginning. David's words were a warning. An inside job was unfolding. Something larger, something hidden, and whoever was behind it was not done yet. The night after David stormed out, silence wrapped itself around Keanu's home. The guests left quickly, whispering nervously as they departed, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Antonio stayed behind, helping clear the dishes, though his hands still trembled. Sir, Antonio said softly, maybe I should leave. If I stay here, they will keep blaming me. I don't want to be the reason people bring danger to your door. Keanu stopped him immediately. No, Antonio. If you leave, they win. Whoever is behind this wants to break trust between us. But I won't let them. You've been with me longer than most people in my life. You're not going anywhere. Tears filled Antonio's eyes, but he bowed his head. Thank you, sir. Yet Keanu's mind could not rest. David's words echoed in his memory. You've made powerful enemies. Antonio was just the first step. What did that mean? Who were these enemies? The next morning, Keanu began digging. With the help of Anna, his lawyer and trusted friend, he traced David's background. David isn't just a business associate, Anna explained, handing him documents. He worked for a company that recently lost a huge contract because of you. They wanted your endorsement, but you chose another firm. It cost them millions. Maybe this is payback. Keanu frowned. But why target Antonio? Anna tapped the papers. Because Antonio is your constant. They know your chef has been with you for years. If they break your trust in him, they weaken you. The thought burned in Keanu's chest. Antonio, the man who had cooked for him through grief, through joy, through silence, was now the target of a cruel plan. Later that day, Keanu noticed something odd. One of his household staff, a young assistant named Mark, was avoiding him, his eyes downcast whenever they crossed paths. Mark had been hired only 6 months earlier, and though polite, he was always quiet, always keeping to himself. Keanu's instincts sharpened. That evening, while walking past the storage room, Keanu overheard hushed voices. He paused, pressing himself against the wall. He suspects David, a voice whispered. It was Mark. But he doesn't know about us. Keanu's heart pounded. Another voice, low and rough, answered. Good. Keep it that way. Your job is to watch Antonio. Make sure he's discredited. Once the chef is out, Reeves will be easier to reach. Keanu's jaw tightened, rage surging inside him. This wasn't just about food or gossip. It was an inside job, and someone under his own roof was part of it. He pushed the door open suddenly, and the two men inside jumped. Mark's face went pale, his mouth opening, but no words coming out. Sir, he stammered. Keanu's voice was like ice. How long have you been working against me? Mark's lips trembled. It's not what it looks like. Then explain. It, Keanu demanded, his eyes burning. Explain why I heard you plotting against Antonio, the most loyal man I know. Silence filled the room. Mark's shoulders slumped, and his voice cracked. They threatened me. They said if I didn't help, they'd ruin me. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But they promised Antonio would take the fall, and I was supposed to make sure of it. Keanu stepped closer, his tone sharp. Who are they? Mark's eyes darted nervously. I don't know all of them. But David wasn't working alone. Someone else higher up is pulling the strings. Someone who wants you broken, sir, and Antonio was only the beginning. The weight of his words hung heavy in the room. Keanu realized the truth. This was bigger than David, bigger than betrayal. This was a conspiracy aimed at destroying the trust, love, and loyalty that made his life whole. And now that he knew, there was no turning back. The air in the storage room was thick with silence after Mark's confession. His head hung low, shame written all over his face. Keanu stood still, his eyes fixed on him, anger and disappointment swirling together. You could have come to me, Keanu said quietly but firmly. Instead, you chose fear. Mark's voice cracked. I was scared, sir. They said they'd destroy my family if I didn't follow. I thought maybe if I obeyed, it would end. Keanu shook his head. That's how men like them win, by feeding fear. But the truth always comes out. Antonio entered the room just then, his apron still on from the kitchen. Sir, is something wrong? He asked, sensing the tension. Keanu turned to him. Antonio, it's worse than we thought. David was not acting alone. Someone else, someone powerful, is pulling the strings. Mark was forced to spy on you to make you look guilty. Antonio froze, his face pale. Me? But why? Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. Because you are the one constant in my life. They thought if they broke my trust in you, they'd weaken me. But they miscalculated. They didn't understand what loyalty means to us. Antonio's eyes filled with tears. After all these years, sir, I have served you with nothing but love and respect. To think someone wanted to twist that, Keanu interrupted, his voice steady. Loyalty cannot be twisted, Antonio. Yours is proof of that. And now we will fight this together. But who was truly behind it? The next day, Anna returned with new information. I've traced some of David's contacts. He's been meeting with a man named Richard Vance. He's no ordinary businessman. He has a reputation for destroying competitors quietly. Intimidation, false accusations, ruined reputations. It's his style. Keanu frowned. And now he's come after me. Anna nodded. And he's clever. He wanted Antonio blamed first so you'd lose focus. Then he planned to strike at your projects, your reputation, everything you've built. Antonio's jaw tightened. If I'm the reason, then let me take the risk. Let me face him. Keanu shook his head. No, this isn't your fight alone. They tried to use you as a pawn, Antonio, but you are no pawn. You are family. Antonio's lips trembled, humbled by the words. Later that night, Keanu walked through the quiet halls of his home. Lily's laughter from the other room echoed softly, reminding him what truly mattered. This fight wasn't about business or power. It was about protecting the people who had stood by him, about proving that loyalty was stronger than greed. But then, a chilling message arrived, slipped under the door, written in sharp ink. Stop digging, Reeves. Next time, it won't just be food we poison. Keanu read it, his jaw tightening. The threat wasn't just toward him now. It was toward everyone in his home, including Antonio and Lily. He walked straight to Antonio, showing him the note. Antonio's face hardened with resolve. Sir, they want us afraid, but I will not leave your side. Let them come. We will face them together. Keanu looked at him, a mix of pride and worry in his eyes. They thought loyalty was weakness. They're about to learn it's the strongest weapon we have. The storm was about to break wide open. The man in the shadows, Richard Vance, had finally revealed his hand, and now Keanu Reeves, with his loyal chef by his side, was ready to bring the truth into the light, no matter the cost. The morning was gray and cold, as if the city itself knew a storm was coming. Keanu sat at the long wooden table in his study, the threatening note still lying before him. Antonio stood nearby, his hands clenched, his face lined with both fear and determination. Sir, Antonio said quietly, this man, Richard Vance, he will not stop. Men like him never stop. Keanu looked up at his loyal chef, the man who had stood by him for 15 years. Then we don't wait for him to strike again. We take the fight to him. With Anna's help, they arranged a private meeting. Richard Vance was powerful, wealthy, and used to getting his way. But what he didn't expect was Keanu Reeves walking into his office with evidence, witnesses, and unwavering resolve. The meeting room was tall and cold, glass walls overlooking the city. Richard sat behind his desk smiling as if nothing in the world could touch him. "Keanu Reeves," he said smoothly. "To what do I owe this visit?" Keanu placed the threatening note on the desk. "You know why I'm here. You came after Antonio. You tried to poison my guests, and you threatened my home. It ends now." Richard's smile didn't falter. "You have no proof I was involved. David is gone. Mark is just a scared boy. None of this will touch me." Anna stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Actually, we do have proof. Phone records, bank transfers, conversations recorded. You orchestrated this entire plan, and now, the law will touch you." For the first time, Richard's face darkened. "You think you can ruin me? Do you know how many people fear me?" Keanu leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "I don't fear you, because I have something you'll never understand. Loyalty. Antonio stood by me when no one else did. You tried to break that bond, but you failed. You will always fail against people who fight for each other, not against each other." Antonio's voice, trembling but strong, joined in. "You wanted to paint me as a traitor, but all you've shown is who you really are, a man with no honor." The room fell silent. Richard's empire of fear was crumbling. Anna handed over the documents to the authorities waiting outside. Within minutes, officers entered, placing Richard under arrest. His threats echoed down the hall as they dragged him away, but they no longer carried power. When it was over, Antonio stood in stunned silence. Tears welled in his eyes as he turned to Keanu. "Sir, you saved my name. You saved my life." Keanu shook his head gently. "No, Antonio. You saved yourself with your loyalty. I only stood beside you. You've been more than a chef. You've been family. And family doesn't abandon each other." The weight of those words broke the last of Antonio's composure. He bowed his head, his voice shaking. "Thank you. For believing in me when no one else did." That evening, back at home, the house was warm again. Lily ran to Antonio, hugging him tightly. "Are you staying, Uncle Antonio?" she asked with innocent joy. Antonio smiled, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks. "Yes, little one, I'm staying." Keanu watched the scene, his heart full. The world outside was still filled with greed, betrayal, and cruelty. But inside these walls, there was something stronger: trust, love, and loyalty that no one could take away. And as the fire crackled in the hearth, Keanu whispered to himself, "They thought loyalty was weakness, but it is our greatest strength." The storm had passed, and in its place a home built on truth stood unshaken.